The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thanks a million for joining us for today's Socrates Lunch and Learn webinar. With me today, as always, I have Louise Murray, our support team leader for Socrates. We're also delighted to be joined by Brian Connor and Alan Kearns from the DEASP, who are here to answer any questions that you might have around eCerts. So the format that we're taking today is the same as all of the other webinars that we've done. I'm going to pass it over to Louise shortly. She's going to do an overview of the functionality of the eCerts in your Socrates system, how they work, how to use them, etc. And then at the end, we'll open it up for questions. So if anybody has any questions, I would encourage you all to submit them using the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. It should be just appearing in the little toolbox. If you type your question in there, it'll come through to me. I'll ask the questions to either Louise or the guys from the department at the end of it, and we'll get through as many as we can. As always, we're kind of hoping to keep this to roughly in and around half an hour, because I know everyone's busy and it's a Friday, so we will try and keep it as short and sweet, but cover everything that you need to know. And so with that in mind, I'm going to hand things over to Louise straight away to kick us off. So Louise, that should be working its way over to you now. There we go.
Yeah, it's coming through here. Can you see my screen now?
You can indeed, yeah.
Great. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Okay, first of all, I'll start off with some things that you need to have set up before you can do an e-cert through Socrates. The first thing you need to be on the latest version of Socrates, which is 2.6.7.3. Now, most people will be on that version, but if you're not, we can update you. And there's just a few that's left. That's usually just a little bit harder to get everyone. I might have some problem with the update, but that's one thing. The second thing you need is you need to make sure that you have a HealthLink certificate installed on your computer, because the e-certs get submitted through HealthLink. So to check to see if you have a HealthLink certificate installed on your computer, you just check under your internet. And from there, up at the top right-hand corner, you click on the little tools, and then you go to Internet Options. Under Options, you have Content, and from there, you have your certificates, and you'll see if you have a HealthLink online certificate there. 1 second there now. If you have been doing e-referrals or downloading lab messages, you should already have your HealthLink certificate installed on your computer. And you also would have, when you do anything got to do with HealthLink, each surgery has their own unique username, password, and PIN. So if you have been doing your e-referrals and lab messages, you would already have it. But if you've never done one yourself, if you're a doctor and you've never done either of those two things through the system, then you're going to have to make sure that you have your HealthLink username, password, and PIN. So if you don't have that and there's no one in the surgery that has a record of it, the best thing to do is we just give HealthLink a call, and they'll be able to send them to you, basically. So yeah, this will start off now. So the first thing we'll do is I'll just go into a patient here that I know I can do. Okay, so I have a test patient here called Peter Dwyer. And just need to begin a consultation. And then there's two ways about doing this, but I'll show you the two ways. The simplest way is going to Custom Forms up here at the top, and you click on Social Welfare eCert. When this comes up, it asks you patient consent requested. To submit an electronic social welfare cert, the patient's consent is required. So this has been in pilot for the last 6 weeks to 2 months or so, and what other surgeries have been doing is they're just getting the patient to sign a document, and then they scan it back into the patient's chart, so you have a record that the patient has consented. So you tick that, and then you go okay, and then what comes up is you have your template, it's A4, certificate type Med1. So as you would all be aware, there's two types of forms. There's a Med1, which is the most common one, and then there's Med2. So when a patient comes in to claim for social welfare, the first thing that they need to do is they need to fill in their IB1 form, So the patient continues to do that as normal. So that's the first thing that needs to be done. Then after that, the doctor adds a Med1 form to the chart. So that gets sent off, and nothing will happen on the social welfare side. No one will get payment until the patient submits their IB1 form. So once the IB1 form is received, then they'll recognize, oh, that's the Med1, these are two things that are associated with each other, and then people will get payment. So if a patient has already been, currently you haven't been doing the eCerts, if a patient has been on Med1 forms for a few months or a few weeks or whatever period of time already, they don't have to fill in the IB1 form again. They just need to, the doctor will come in here, click the consent, and fill in the next few steps. So you don't have to fill in the IB1 form if you've already done it previously for the patient for this period of sickness. So certificate type Med1, PPSN is this here. So it's a good idea to just fill it in all in capital letters. If the patient has the PPSN filled in under their patient details in here, it will automatically come in here. If this is blank and you type out the number again, then it will, when you submit this, it'll go back in under the patient details and save that PPSN number. So underneath this, you've got the registered panel holder. You have the registered panel holder. Actually, sorry, I'm going to backtrack one. I forgot to say one main thing about this. When you get the update, you don't have the doctors need to fill in their DEASP number in under their details. So if you don't know what the doctor's DSAP number is, you can see it at the bottom of the form. So on the certain form, you see it down here. And then once you have that for that particular doctor, the doctor then needs to log into Socrates, be on this version, go down to my control panel, my profile, and save it in here, and go save. And then that way they are, now you'll see them in the drop-down list as a doctor to submit for. So sorry about that, I forgot to mention that. So custom forms, social welfare, eCert. I fill this in for myself as a doctor. So registered panel holder is myself, medical council doctor is myself. So you might use that if maybe a locum might be submitting it for the doctor. So the nature of the condition, there's a few different options in here kind of preset. Let's look through them there. They're ICD-10 codes. I personally find it easier to, instead of having to click on them, is actually search for it in here. So you don't need to know obviously your ICD-10 codes off by heart. You can just search for the actual word, and then you select the condition that they're claiming for. The physical effort is an optional, you can choose that. Hospitalized option is optional. And then from and for, so how long is this going to be for? So it could be a week, 2 weeks, custom date, you just choose what the period is for. So at the bottom of this, it's just mentioned what I said already. If this is the first social welfare certificate for the patient, please give the patient an IB1 application form for illness benefit for their completion and submission to the department. So we click on submit there, and then it's going through HealthLink, and it gets sent through HealthLink to the department. I have a test certificate. It's not actually on a live HealthLink one, so this tends to be a little bit slow when you're submitting it. So we'll just give it a moment. Usually when I've been teaching other surgeries over the last few weeks on how to use this, it doesn't take this long for them, so don't worry. You wouldn't want to be sitting waiting like that for long periods of time. Okay, then it's asking you, do you want to print it off? Which in this scenario, we don't really want to. So in here now, it says in the social welfare certificate is here, and that's just a kind of copy of a record of it. And then you can also, that's one way of sending off the e-cert. So if it generally comes up with an error, so if I was to do an e-cert, I'll just do it in this way. So this is the second way of doing it. So when you go in under Actually, I'll go into another patient just to see it from scratch. So go into Sarah here. So begin a consultation. So we went to custom forms a moment ago. Now we're going to go in under documents, and we're going to go to forms, and then over here on the right hand side you'll see it down here. Under S. Yeah, social welfare research. We have loads of test stuff in here. So once again, the permission, that only comes up one time for the patient. It's not going to keep coming up every time you do one for that said patient. So if I fill in the PPSN number incorrectly, or if I fill one that's a little bit, just incorrectly basically, it comes up with a message to say invalid PPSN number format. So you can't send it off if you fill in the number or the PPSN number wrong. It won't let you do it. So that's kind of one thing that you know that it's not going to come back with an error for that reason. The main reasons why something mightn't come back correctly is maybe the date of birth is off, and the number that you have, the date of birth that you have on record isn't the same as in the social welfare department. So if I just, so you just fill in the correct number and then you'll be able to submit it. There's a record of all of the ones that you've sent by going in under My Control Panel, Claim Tracking, and on the left-hand side you have Welfare eCert. So from here, I can see there's one here unsent. There is one's waiting acknowledgement. So these are all the ones that are in our test database that we've tried to send. So what happens is they get sent off, they get processed, and whenever there's when you download your bloods, at the same time, when you download your bloods, it does loads of different things, and one of them is bloods, obviously. And another thing is your e-cert or e-referrals, etc. And this one here also downloads a response for that. So once they're accepted or rejected, they'll come in here as received or rejected. I don't think there's many that you can get rejected. The main reason why it would be rejected might be the date of birth. So what you can do is you can correct the date of birth in the patient's chart, and then from here you can submit it, and you can submit it off here. And you can also search for, if I just go under waiting acknowledgement, if I highlight anyone there or just anything at all, if I start typing, it comes down with a search window down at the bottom. So if I wanted to look for someone's name or search by their PPSN, you can search for it down here and it will return. So if I wanted to see the last few digits of my PPSN, so 77, it will return anyone with that PPSN. Then that's pretty much it really. I'll just show you on the actual Socrates website, up at the top right hand corner under, so socrates.ie, under resources, there is a quick guide on how to do an e-cert. So people can look over that basically, and it gives you the step-by-steps on how to set it up for yourself. So it's not turned on for everyone, so most surgeries are on the correct version to do eCerts 2673, but it hasn't been just turned on because it's been in pilot. So over the weekend, what will happen is you'll get an update to all surgeries. We'll get an update that will turn on this button here in the patient's chart, social welfare eCert. So at the moment, if you were to try, you don't probably have social welfare eCert there, but by Monday / Tuesday or Wednesday, you'll be able to get it. It'll just slowly turn on for a few hundred sites every few days in the middle of the night. So you'll be able to see that one in the morning. So if you want to start using that, you just have to wait for that button to come up. But what you can do is you can kind of get your doctors registered under their profile with their DEASP number, and then that way you kind of have it half ready for when you want to start using it. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of how to use it.
Great stuff, Louise. That was really helpful, really useful. We've had a good few questions come in, so I'm just going to plow through them straight away. Basically, starting off with Mary's question, she was asking, will the nature of condition field accept any ICD-10 code? There is another section on the paper form, and is this in there in the electronic form, I think is the question.
Yeah, so that's on the back of the form. I think I understand her question. On the back of the form, there's loads of default kind of ones that are commonly used. So yeah, any ICD-10 code, which are these, any ICD-10 code that I think appears down at the bottom right, if it's not any of the codes that is there on the form that you can check, there's a, well, I think it's the bottom right where you can choose what it is. So yeah, any ICD-10 code you can choose.
Great, okay. And this is possibly more for the Brian and Alan from the department, but do people still need to give a paper IB1 form?
Yes, it would be a paper one for the moment anyway, yeah.
Okay, and what happens if their Wi-Fi, say someone's trying to use it and the Wi-Fi or HealthLink isn't working? Is it automatically stored and kind of goes through when the Wi-Fi comes back up, or how does that work?
Yes, if the e-cert is submitted, it'll stay in the queue until the system is back up with the Wi-Fi, and it'll come through our system then. And if the problem is on their side with the HealthLink or the Wi-Fi, they can use a paper form.
Great. Okay. And again, Louise, you may have asked me if you may have covered this, but do people get a response to say whether the cert has been paid, like similar to the STCs or vaccines on the PCRS website, or how does that work?
No, we don't have any linkage with payments. The only thing that applies on our side inside of Socrates is when you have if it's been accepted by the accepted, basically it doesn't tell you when it gets paid. So accepted means that they've received it and that's all good, but that it doesn't tell you if you've got paid.
Great, okay. And can all follow-up certs be sent as e-referrals then? I think, can all follow-up certs be sent electronically then? I think that's the question.
Yeah, that's the med one. So the following weeks and months that come when they come in for their other certs, you just add it in. So when you do, actually I forgot to point out one thing. When you do a social welfare e-cert, can't really see it here, but when you do a social welfare, you send it off, and then the reason why it's not coming up here now is because there's no response back to say it's received or not. So up here at the top right hand corner, it'll tell you all your previous ones that you've sent. So you'll know, so for example, you sent one off today for 2 weeks. So you can check up here, it'll have a drop down, it's like, oh, when was that? And then you can choose, all right, then you need to get their second cert for this period of time. So yeah, you just do your follow-up ones in there. And you have ones that were done before. You can see what was done before pretty easily.
Great, okay. And is there an option to reconcile payments from the department on there? No, that's back to the previous question.
Yeah, that's the previous question, yeah.
And are we doing Med 2 forms as well on this?
Yeah, so initially when we first started to test this out in surgeries, only Med 1 was possible, but Med 2 is now possible. So that might be a question for someone who has only been doing Med 1, but now, as of recently, you can do Med 2s as well.
Great, okay. And do patients get an acknowledgement that the cert has been received? The guys are handling some queries from patients for duplicate certs. So do the department contact the patient, or how does that work?
I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Brian or Connor, do you guys send out certs to the patients, or is it all done in the system?
No, we don't send the cert to the patient. The doctor can provide the white cert to the patient from the system.
Is that in is this the actual thing here that you're talking about? 1 minute now. Actually, that's a bad example. If I go Peter documents forms. Are you talking about this here, or are you talking about a different one?
The receipt. Apologies, we don't actually have access to the webinar
Oh, sorry, yeah, my bad. Yeah, it's basically like a printout that you can get through the Socrates system. So, yeah, they can get that basically.
That can be provided to the patient. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can print that off and the patient can get one if they need a copy for their own records. Just highlighting it and go print.
Okay, and what happens if the cert is rejected for possibly invalid date of birth or PPS numbers?
Yeah, so with the PPSN, don't think it will actually let you. Well, I suppose if a patient's PPSN number was a valid one, but for different, maybe a typo that could be an actual valid one for somebody else. And yeah, what they can do is they can fix the date of birth, fix the PPSN, and they can send it off by going to control panel, claim tracking, and from there they can, under unsent, they can highlight it and go submit, and it will get sent off.
Great. And sorry, there's just loads of questions coming in at the moment, so I'm doing my best to get through them all. What other reasons could certs be rejected for in terms of filling them out?
If I just look at the manual, there hasn't been many people that's been getting rejected ones, so I can't really tell.
Okay.
So you might be getting this. This is on the manual that was online. So invalid PPSN value is this. So just update to uppercase and submit the message. No record found with matching PPSN number. Clarify and confirm the PPSN number and date of birth of the patient. No medical certificate found for panel member. And then it just says call this number here. Yeah, to be honest, we've got like 20 sites using it at the moment, and there's not been many rejected ones that I've come in contact with, except for maybe date of birth. And they've been using it quite a lot. So I can't, there's no other main reason as to why it's been rejected, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I think it's just date of birth mainly, or PPSN that might come up with an issue.
The two big ones, okay, yeah. So I suppose if sorry, go on ahead.
Just from the department side, an invalid date of birth or PPS number may not just match the records that are on our system.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be just to advise the patient to go to the local Intrio office and check what records we have for them on the system, and just to confirm if they're correct.
Okay.
Okay, and just a point of clarification, are the practices still to give a paper copy to the patients as well as submitting everything online every time, or are they, how does that work from the actual administration side?
They don't have to if they don't want to. If the patient wants it, then yes, but you don't have to print it out. Okay,
great. And can locums or doctors with no DEASP number use a different doctor's number? I think I can nearly answer that one, and it's probably a no, but we might get the official line on it.
No, there is. We are reviewing at the moment of setting up locums as panelists as well, and they will have their own number that they will be able to log in. But that's going forward. We're only looking at it at the moment.
Yeah, so they need their own DEASP number. So they if they don't have one, they should contact you to get one, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And if a patient decides to close their claim early by emailing close my IB claim, will this cause a conflict?
No, once the cert is received. And it's within the closed certification guidelines.
Okay, great. And sorry, bear with me for a second. So Louise, sorry, what's the best way for the guys to tell when they can actually start using this in terms of knowing what version they're on and if it's been switched on for them?
Yeah, that can be done by up at the top. They just need to make sure that it says 2673. And because you see what happens is an update comes out, and most people kind of in surgeries, it all is automatically done, and it's usually all around the same time. So there's might be 700-800 sites trying to get an update. So it doesn't always go out all the one night. So like maybe 200 one night, 200 the following night, 200. So it slowly, everyone gets whittled down. So if by next Thursday or Friday, you're not able to see under custom forms social welfare e-cert, then you can just give the support desk a call and we can just kind of investigate why the update isn't downloading for you. But I can't imagine there's going to be very many of them. So first thing, have to be on 2673, and then if by next Thursday you don't see this social welfare e-cert, then we can investigate why it's not working, the download, to turn that on for you.
Okay, cool. And we're getting a fair few questions about who should be submitting these certs. Is that the GP or the admin?
The GP should be submitting the cert. Just to refer to the medical certification under social welfare guidelines, states that the certifiers must issue a certificate personally and that it should be completed and signed by the certifier.
Okay, that's great, thanks. And in terms of, can practices use a mix of doing the e-certs digitally and paper forms, or would you recommend that they do it all electronically, or how would you see that working?
Well, the department is looking to roll this out to all GP practices, so we would hope that everyone will be doing it electronically, but the paper form will be still available at the moment.
Okay, that's great, and I think that's most questions that I can get through, and I'm just conscious that we're coming up to the end of the time. One more there, Louise, can you just show again where the doctors put in their DEASP number?
Sure, of course. So down at the bottom, so they log on as themselves. So I'm logged on as, I'm not actually a doctor, but for today I am, Dr. Louise Murray. And you go to my control panel, my profile up the top right corner, and then from there you have the DEASP number here. They just fill that in and then they click save. And then as soon as that's done, when the person does a social welfare, they'll appear in the drop-down list. So myself and Dr. Sandra have their DEASP numbers filled in. So as soon as you add them all in, each doctor will appear in that list.
Great. Okay. And look, what I would say is there's been a huge amount of questions in there that I haven't been able to get through them all. So look, what I would say is please feel free to kind of review the quick guide that Louise pointed out on the Socrates website under the resources section. If you do have any questions, feel free to get in touch with us or with the department directly themselves. And look, we hope this was beneficial. The webinar will be available on YouTube from this afternoon onwards, and I'll send around a link to it to everyone tomorrow, so you can refer back to it if you need to. But again, we're here to help, so if you do have any questions, please do get in touch, and hopefully it was beneficial. And I'd like to thank Louise, as always, for giving us a great overview, and I'd like to thank Brian and Alan from the department for joining us today. And thanks to you all for your time and your attention, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks very much, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.